Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching Nile Cruise on Nile TV International, and from a very special site, touristic site here in Cairo. We bring you from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. We have with us a very special guest, and our guest now in this segment is Dr. Rahman Medhat, and he is a conservator here at the museum. And of course, dear viewers, the Egyptian Museum still includes all the elements needed to express its exceptional value as a remarkable and original building. Reinforced concrete material and specific Italian, of course, construction methods were used for the first time in Egypt for the museum, allowing the structure to survive the many, of course, challenges that it has faced all over the past 100 years. And to know more, as I mentioned, we have with us in this segment Dr. Abdel Rahman Medhat. Dr. Abdel Rahman, a very good day, and it's a pleasure to have you with us in today's episode of Nile Cruise. We start off by asking you, of course, sir, what is the role of restoring or restoration in the museum?
So the restoration is or conservation is the science to make the object and the cultural heritage material stable for displaying, and our role mainly is to stabilize the object to be able to be displayed and to give any chance for the future generation to see it and to study it. So our role in conservation first is to stabilize the object, second to make the intervention if it needs intervention, and the third thing is to make passive conservation for it. And passive conservation means that it should be suitable for displaying. And this means that we control the dust, the relative humidity, and we making ultraviolet compatible with the object. So conservation could be divided in two rules. The first is the intervention, and the second is to stabilize the object by passive conservation.
More than 600 wooden scar cove have been restored, and of course they're catalogued by a team of experts at the Egyptian Museum here in Egypt, in the largest such undertaking in the establishment history. Would you tell us more about this?
Yeah, the conservation of the 600 coffins, it's a project with American Research Center in Egypt, and this is was to stabilizing the object, and that means that there are some coffins need a slight intervention like removing the dust, and others need to making consolidation and to save the bent wood, and this is come by the intervention by doing a consolidation and making them ready for displaying.
Would you shed us more light on the role of the two initiatives, transforming the Egyptian Museum and the revival of the Egyptian Museum?
Yeah, this is both are very great initiatives, and they are really we are very proud of them because it comes with the cooperation with and the integration with the European Union, and this has come with big, very important 5 big museums, and they are helping us to making the Egyptian Museum more authentic. And all of this painting you see, it's the original paintings for the Egyptian Museum, because before it was a lot of painting on it, so they're removing more than 14 layers, and now it's the shape as it was as at first, as it's authentic, and also they help us for making conservation and making displaying for the object with new compatible methods going well with the mythology in all over the world. And as you know, this is our iconic museum, so we are trying with the European Comet and these 5 big museums in Europe to make the object very stabilized, making much attractive and better for displaying, and also to making some conservation for some masterpieces, and there are some integration with the other conservators to make this object in a stable case and displaying for the public in the Egyptian Museum.
Would you tell us how the work was done without the closure of the rooms under rehabilitation?
Yeah, of course, the work is done with a lot of cautions to save our object first, and we making also planning for making displaying for the object, and there are many meetings and many decisions took to put the object in the best way for and the best method and to making it stabilize and also to attract the people more. And yes, there is a lot of uh, rehabilitation for making this object in better showcase for the public and for all over the world.
Okay, of course, within the museum's original enclosure, would you tell us how the work enclosure, new facilities were built, of course, and physical changes were also made to the museum building, both from within and without, and of course from the outside. Would you tell us more about this?
Yeah, it's for the authenticity of the building. We keep the authenticity of the building. As I said before, that's now the painting in the museum as its original case. So this is very important because it told you about the style of the museum, and this is one of the most ancient museum in the Near East, and maybe it's one of the most ancient museum also in the world. So we keep its physical shape, and for the new intervention, we make this intervention compatible with the authenticity of the place. So the displaying of this object will using showcases and will using a lot of advanced method to make the masterpieces attractive for the people and also to stabilize them, but with safeguarding the authenticity of the pieces and the authenticity of the museum.
The technology plays the main role in the multimedia presentation of the museum. Would you please shed more light on the role of technology in the museums nowadays, especially that, of course, everything is moving now from manual to digital?
So, as you said, the digitalization is the language of the future and the present, and now we are very count on digitalization in everything. So we are going now to making and shed light by making very innovative technique for displaying the objects, and we using also the digitalization for everything, for labeling, for monitoring the conservation, for even the records now in the ancient Egyptian museum going to be digitalized. So we depend on the technology, but with making it compatible with the authenticity of this museum. So we adapt the technology for the authenticity and for presenting our museum in authentic way and digitalized way.
Okay, UNESCO always boosts efforts to preserve heritage. What is the role of UNESCO in the museum?
Of course, UNESCO making a big role in all the museum, and especially in the Egyptian museums. They helping us to build the signage, and which is very important because it's a label which help the tourists and the people to understand the cultural heritage materials and the objects. And of course, they trying also to make some training course for rising up the capacity of the people working in the museum.
Okay, while transferring the royal mummies from the Egyptian Museum to the National Museum of course, Egyptian civilization in Fustat, the most important thing was to keep the mummies from sustaining any damage. What were the measures that taken, of course, to preserve their integrity?
So to save these mummies, which was some of them royal mummies, and it located here in Egyptian Museum for many years, and we did our best to stabilize them, and to keep the relative humidity and temperature, and to keep the relative humidity and the temperature for stabilizing them. And we use also using some nitrogen to making the inert and still inside the showcases. Despite all of these cautions we took, it's decided to move them to the Namek, from here to the Namek, and this is a good chance for them. Good chance because now there are more suitable showcases for them, more suitable passive conservation for them, a lot of advanced method to monitor their cases. So they were safe here, and they become more, safe also in the NEMEC, with a lot of technology to estimate their case to estimate their case very well.
Dr. Abdel, do you intend that the Egyptian Museum in Cairo thus remains a museum of the museums, or one of the important museums in Egypt, of course, as of course it used to be the symbol of museums in Egypt, the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir, or is anything going to change after the gem opens?
The Egyptian Museum will still be the Egyptian Museum. It's one of the iconic museums in Egypt, and it's very well-known museum. And we are happy that there are another museums like Grand Egyptian Museum and Dynamics and other museums in Egypt. Egypt is a very rich country, so maybe in every governorate there should be a museum. And the Egyptian Museum will still Egyptian Museum, and we will help all the others museum with object, with people, with experience. So the integrity between all of the museum, it's our main mission and our main target.
Dr. Abdurrahman Medhat, a conservator here at the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir. Do you have any plans to move to the gem when it inaugurates?
I was already in GEM for 8 years, and I come here because, as I told you, that we are complete each other wherever I am working. I am working for the Ministry of Tourism and Tourism and Antiquities, and I'm happy to do conservation in the Egyptian Museum.
It's a pleasure, of course, to have this wonderful interview with you. Thank you very much, and we wish you all success, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.